Hey everyone, and welcome to today's deep dive. I'm your host, and today we are getting into something that honestly sounds like pure science fiction, but I promise you it's a very real science.
It really is. Hi, everyone. Glad to be here to kind of help navigate this with you.
And we are so glad you are joining us because, long before human missions like Artemis II were gearing up to venture farther from Earth than ever, we've kind of always been obsessed with this one specific idea, right? Talking to aliens.
Right. The classic first contact scenario.
Exactly. But to do that, we are looking at an incredibly thought-provoking article by Dr. Natalie Schilling. She's a linguist, and she explores this very real subfield called xenolinguistics, which is, and this is the wild part, the study of extraterrestrial language.
Yeah, which is fascinating because, it operates on what feels like a massive contradiction.
Right. Because we are trying to decode the syntax and grammar of
Yeah.
beings we've never met. Like, we have no data. We have zero intercepted alien transmissions to study.
Zero. Which forces this really brilliant methodological pivot. Since we don't have alien data, xenolinguists have to basically reverse engineer the entire problem.
Meaning what, exactly?
Meaning, to hypothesize about how a completely non-human intelligence might structure a thought, we first have to, well, hold up a mirror to ourselves. We have to deconstruct the invisible neurological engine of human speech.
Oh, wow. So we're looking inward to look outward.
Exactly. We have to figure out what makes our language uniquely human, pulling apart the cognitive machinery that you and I use every single day, but, almost never actually think about.
That is so cool. So this deep dive isn't just about, like, little green men. It's actually a shortcut for you, the listener, to fundamentally understand how your own communication works.
Precisely. It's about finding a back door into understanding the really rigid constraints of our own minds.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the first thing that becomes violently apparent when you look at human language from a hypothetical alien's perspective, according to the article, is how aggressively uniform we actually are on Earth.
Yeah, we think we're all so different.
Right. Like, to us, Arabic, Mandarin, and English sound completely alien to one another. But mathematically, structurally, they're essentially the exact same system.
Linguists refer to this as universal grammar.
Universal grammar. Okay.
Yeah. The surface elements, like the specific phonetic sounds, the vocabulary, the idioms, that's all just decorative paint. Beneath that, every single human language relies on the exact same foundational architecture.
So it's kind of like, think of human language like a basic box of building blocks, like Legos.
That's a great way to look at it.
Right. Every language just uses a finite number of sounds or gestures for signed languages and basic phrase types like, noun and verb phrases. But we can snap them together to build a theoretically limitless number of unique communications. Everything from a quick text message to a dense philosophical book.
Yes, exactly. And the crucial element that makes that Lego box work is structural dependency.
Structural dependency.
Right. We don't just string words together in a flat linear line. We nest them inside one another, kind of like Russian dolls.
Okay, give me an example of that.
So if I say, the man who is tall is happy, your brain instantly knows that the first is belongs to the subordinate clause about his height. Right.
Who is tall?
And the second is the main verb of the sentence. The man is happy. No one had to explicitly teach you that neurological sorting mechanism. It's a biological operating system that just comes pre-installed in human brains.
That is wild. We just automatically categorize and nest those chunks. But wait, I have to ask, what separates that universal human grammar from, say, animals talking to each other?
Well, the defining feature is abstraction, or what linguists call displacement.
Displacement. Okay, what does that mean?
Take a vervet monkey, for example. It has a highly specific, distinct alarm call that means eagle, and a completely different one that means leopard.
Okay, so they're definitely communicating.
They are communicating, yes, but animal communication is tethered entirely to the immediate sensory present. It's mostly an instinctive biological reflex triggered by a direct threat or need: food, territory, mating.
Ah, I see. A vervet monkey can't make a call that means, hey, I saw an eagle yesterday.
Exactly. Or, I hope we don't see a leopard tomorrow. They can't do that. Human language, however, is unmoored from the present. We talk about the past, the future, and completely imagined alien worlds.
Which is displacement. We can talk about things that aren't right in front of us.
Right. It's a cultural invention passed from parent to child, allowing us to manipulate reality in our minds.
Okay, but, and I have to push back here a little bit.
Sure, go ahead.
If human language isn't just a biological reflex like a monkey's alarm call, if it's this highly abstract cultural tool, Then why do all human languages share that universal grammar you mentioned earlier?
This is the big question.
Like, what is forcing every single human language to be so similar underneath? Why hasn't some isolated culture invented a completely non-linear language?
It's a great question, and the answer is that the bottleneck is our physical biology.
Our biology. How so?
Well, culture builds the vocabulary, sure, but our physical anatomy dictates the medium, and the medium dictates the syntax.
Okay, wait, walk me through that.
Think about the physical apparatus you're using to speak right now. Our brains are specifically wired to build complex sentences from simpler parts, yes, but our bodies dictate the tools. The evolutionary descent of the human larynx gave us incredible control over sound.
Right, we can make all these complex vowels and consonants.
Yes, but it created a highly restricted single-channel airway. We produce a single column of air manipulated by one tongue and one set of lips. Because we can physically only make one distinct phonetic sound at a time, we're forced to broadcast our thoughts in a sequential, linear line.
Oh, wow, okay, I see what you mean. It's like we're trapped in a single lane of traffic.
Exactly, a single lane of traffic.
Like you have this massive multidimensional thought in your head, maybe an emotion, a memory, and a physical sensation all at once.
Right.
But to get it out of your head and into mind, you have to slice it up into tiny, single-file phonetic pieces, word after word after word.
You nailed it. Our linear syntax is a direct byproduct of our vocal anatomy.
So if an alien species has a totally different brain or a totally different body, their language wouldn't just sound different. It would be structurally alien.
Completely structurally alien.
Oh.
Dr. Schilling's article actually introduces this fascinating speculation about that. Imagine a species that evolved on a planet with a really thick atmosphere, where sound is basically useless, but light travels perfectly.
Okay, so they wouldn't use mouths at all.
Right. Suppose they communicate visually using millions of color-changing cells on their skin, kind of like cuttlefish or octopuses do here on Earth.
Oh, the article called this the swirl grammar. Right.
Yes, the swirl grammar. If a species communicates by shifting pigments across their entire body, they aren't restricted to a single lane of traffic anymore.
Because they have their whole body as a canvas.
Exactly. They wouldn't need to string words into a sentence over time. A cephalopod-like alien could display a complex, multi-layered visual pattern all at once, like a color pattern for a noun on their left side, an action on the right, and a pulsating rhythm for the past tense across their center.
All at the exact same time?
Yes. The recipient wouldn't read it sequentially from left to right. They would apprehend the entire communicative clutter instantaneously. The grammar wouldn't be a line, it would be a simultaneous chord of meaning.
Just trying to imagine, that fundamentally breaks my brain. Experiencing the subject, the action, the emotion, the time all in a single instantaneous visual strike.
It's hard to wrap your head around, but if we connect this to the bigger picture, we don't even have to look to the stars to see this in action.
What do you mean? Like, you're on Earth?
Absolutely. Think about how Earth beings use totally different biological channels. Ants lay down complex chemical trails, essentially organizing civilizations through a language of synthesized odors.
Right, they talk with smells.
Yeah. And the ocean is full of electric eels and knifefish that communicate through subtle modulations in electrical fields. They navigate and signal each other through pulses of electricity to avoid crashing into one another. The biological hardware dictates the software.
So if a fish can talk with electricity, imagine a species that evolved on a radically different planet communicating through light pulses or chemical clouds.
Exactly.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Because when we look at pop culture, Hollywood has kind of taken the lazy route with this, haven't they?
Oh, absolutely. Hollywood's aliens are incredibly anthropomorphic.
Right. Think about famous invented languages like Klingon from Star Trek or Na'vi from Avatar. They sound harsh and alien, but they still use mouths. They still use ears. They have sentences, consonants, vowels.
They are structurally just human languages wearing a costume.
Exactly. The engine-driving Klingon is structurally identical to English. Now, the 2016 movie Arrival did try something different, right? With those tentacle tracings.
Arrival was a phenomenal attempt. It beautifully played with the idea of a non-linear, non-sequential syntax. Those circular ink blots where the alien knows the end of the sentence before they start writing it.
Right, which ties back to that swirl grammar idea.
It does. But even then, if you look closely, the human protagonists were ultimately able to map those visual swirls onto human grammatical concepts like nouns and verbs fairly neatly.
Yeah, they figured it out pretty fast. And usually, sci-fi just glosses over the translation problem entirely with magic fixes.
Oh, the magic fixes.
Like the universal translator in Star Trek, or
Yeah.
Galactic Basic, which is just English in Star Wars, or the Babelfish in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Right. They operate on this assumption that translation is simply swapping out vocabulary, like, oh, their word for ship is just replaced with our word for ship.
But real scientists don't think it'll be that easy.
And not at all. Scientists working in METI, that's messaging extraterrestrial intelligence, they look at this much more soberly. They know a true alien language might use magnetic fields or odors or telepathy.
We might not even recognize it as language.
Exactly. Information theory suggests that a perfectly efficient, highly compressed communicative signal is indistinguishable from random white noise. We could be staring right at a galactic encyclopedia and dismissing it as background space radiation.
That is deeply unsettling. But wait, NEI scientists face an even bigger issue, don't they? The article brings up this profound problem regarding content.
The content problem, yes. This is a massive philosophical barrier.
Because humans use language to talk about our earthly surroundings.
Yeah.
Trees, water, our social bonds.
Right. Language is a cognitive map of the speaker's physical and social environment. We have complex grammar for familial bonds because we're a sexually reproducing tribal species.
So imagine an alien intelligence living in the upper atmosphere of a gas giant like Jupiter.
Right, just sentient clouds of plasma.
Yeah. Sentient plasma clouds that reproduce by splitting in half. They float in a gaseous continuum. No solid ground, no discrete objects, no day or night. What would they even want to talk about with us?
That's the content problem in a nutshell. What is their noun for ground? How do you explain the concept of brother or sister to a cloud of gas that reproduces by fission?
You literally can't.
You can't. The Venn diagram of our shared realities might consist of two entirely separate circles. We lack the shared context necessary to anchor any translation. We could mathematically crack their syntax and still have absolutely nothing to talk to them about.
Honestly, that is a profoundly isolating thought. The idea that intelligence could be everywhere in the universe, but we are forever locked inside our own biological silos, unable to even comprehend each other.
It feels very existentially lonely, yes.
But, and this is the plot twist of the article that I love, just as you start to feel completely hopeless about communicating with aliens, the research pivots. There's this optimistic twist about the fundamental laws of the universe.
Yes. What's fascinating here is that an alien language might end up being much more similar to human language than METI's worst-case scenarios suggest.
And the proof is actually happening right here on Earth. Because as we learn more about our own planet, the gap between human and non-human communication is shrinking incredibly fast.
It really is. We used to draw this hard, solid line between human intelligence and animal signaling, but that line is getting very blurry.
I mean, look at bees. A bee's brain is the size of a sesame seed, but a foraging bee can locate a food source miles away, fly back to the dark hive, and perform a waggle dance that encodes the distance and direction using the angle of the sun.
Which is essentially vector calculus.
Vector calculus from a bug. They are communicating about a distant food source, which completely breaks that rule of displacement we thought only humans possessed.
Exactly. And cephalopods take it further. Certain octopuses don't just change color to hide. They actively pretend to be other animals, like toxic flatfish or sea snakes, to scare off specific predators.
Oh, wow. So they are actively deceiving other species.
Right. And deception requires an internal model of how that predator visually processes the world. It's a high-order cognitive function.
And non-human primates, they actually lie to each other, don't they?
They do. Researchers have seen chimps actively suppressing their instinctual food calls to hide a high-value snack from the rest of the troop.
So they're lying by omission to keep the food for themselves. That's so devious, I love it, but it shows we share way more cognitive ground with non-humans than we thought.
Which serves as the empirical foundation for this monumental theory by Marvin Minsky.
Okay, Marvin Minsky. Who was he?
He was a pioneer in artificial intelligence and cognitive science, and he believed that communication with alien intelligence should be fully possible.
Okay. Why was he so confident?
Because his reasoning bypasses biology completely. It focuses on the absolute, uncompromising laws of physics. Every creature in the universe, no matter what planet they are from, is bound by the exact same constraints on matter and space and time.
So it's like it doesn't matter if you evolved to communicate with vocal cords or chemical odors or electrical swirls. We are all playing on the exact same physical game board.
That's a perfect analogy. The game board is the universe.
Right. Gravity, time, and matter are the ultimate universal translators.
Exactly. Minsky argued for convergent cognitive evolution. To survive in the physical universe, any organism has to acquire energy. So you are forced to categorize your environment into binary states: food or not food, danger or safe.
Which naturally leads to basic logic.
Yes, and matter is discrete. Two objects can't occupy the same space. So to navigate the world, a species has to develop a neurological understanding of geometry and spatial relations.
Oh, and time only flows in one direction. A rock falls down, it doesn't fall up.
Right, thermodynamics. So any intelligence has to understand cause and effect. If I do A, then B happens. Sequential logic.
So if an alien species has built a radio transmitter to send a signal across space, we already know they understand electromagnetism.
And if they build a circuit, they understand binary logic to gates. And or, not operations.
So math really is the Rosetta Stone.
It is. The biological channels might be completely different, but the underlying logic required to manipulate the physical universe is non-negotiable. Math, geometry, physics, they force a convergent syntax.
So what does this all mean for us, the listener? By trying to imagine how a completely foreign being might speak, we are actually learning how to better understand our own neighbors right here on Earth.
Exactly. It radically expands our own cognitive flexibility. It's the ultimate exercise in structural empathy. We learn to detect the syntax of intelligence, whether it's in an alien transmission or an octopus in an aquarium or an ant colony.
I love that. So just to recap this incredible journey today, we explored the core building blocks of human grammar and how our biology limits our communication to a linear sequence.
Yep, the single lane of traffic.
Right. We talked about why Hollywood's aliens are way too human, the terrifying prospect of the content problem, and finally how the shared laws of physics and math might be our ultimate hope for universal communication.
It's a lot to process, but it's vital. Though, this raises an important question, one that the article just briefly touches on, but it's huge.
Oh, what's that?
Well, we've established that human language is constrained by our biological bodies, right?
Right.
And alien language will be constrained by their biology and the physical laws of their planets. But what happens when artificial intelligence, which is a non-human language rapidly developing right now, what happens when it creates its own language?
Oh, wow, because AI doesn't have a biological body.
Exactly. It has no physical constraints. It doesn't hunt for food. It isn't bound by biological time. If physics and biology dictate the structure of language, what will a language look like that is completely unmoored from physical space and time?
Will we even be able to recognize it before it's too late?
That is the new frontier of xenolinguistics.
That is both incredible and slightly terrifying to think about. To think that the most foreign language we ever encounter might be sitting in our own server farms. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
It was a pleasure.
To everyone listening, keep analyzing the structures around you. Keep pushing the boundaries of your own perception. And as always, keep asking the hard questions. See you next time.